In old age, avoid these 5 neighbors at all costs. There comes a time in life when you realize that peace is more precious than anything you can buy. After years of working, raising families, and surviving life's storms, all you want is to wake up each morning in a place that feels safe, warm, and free from needless stress. In those later years, the people around you, especially the ones living just a few steps away, can either be the ones who protect that peace or the ones who quietly chip away at it. The wrong kind of neighbor can make you dread opening your blinds, stepping onto your porch, or even answering your phone. And the truth is, it's not just about inconvenience. The people who live near you can affect your health, your mood, and your sense of security. They can turn a peaceful neighborhood into a place where you feel on edge, or they can make you feel truly at home. You've earned the right to enjoy your golden years without unnecessary drama. You've walked through enough noise, enough battles, and enough long nights wondering if tomorrow would be better. Now is the time for rest, for joy, for that deep exhale that says, I'm exactly where I need to be. But that won't happen if the people closest to you bring chaos to your doorstep. This is why it matters more than ever to recognize the types of neighbors who can steal that hard-earned peace. Today, I want to speak to your heart, to protect you from the silent thieves of happiness, to help you see the warning signs before they grow into regrets. Because the truth is simple. The right neighbors can make your final chapters some of the best you've ever lived, and the wrong ones can make them feel like a prison. Number 1. The gossip who erodes trust. Erodes trust. In a small, close-knit neighborhood, news travels fast. Sometimes that can be a good thing when a neighbor checks in because they heard you weren't feeling well, or when people rally together to help someone in need. But there's another side to this, a darker one, and it begins with a neighbor whose words are sharper than they seem. The gossip doesn't always wear an obvious mask. They might greet you with a smile, ask about your day, and then, moments later, carry your words down the street like dry leaves in the wind. They may embellish, twist, or strip away the truth entirely, leaving you exposed in a way that feels almost like a betrayal. In old age, when your circle of trust is smaller, this can be more than just irritating. It can be deeply wounding. Gossip isn't harmless chatter. It's the slow erosion of safety in your own community. It makes you second-guess what you say, who you speak to, and even whether you want to step outside. I've seen elderly people shrink back from the world, not because of illness or mobility issues, but because their trust was broken one too many times by the person across the street. The harm of a gossiping neighbor runs deeper than damaged reputation. It can cause isolation. Seniors who fear being misrepresented often retreat from social gatherings, church events, or even casual conversations over the fence. That isolation doesn't just hurt emotionally. It can take a toll on physical health, increasing risks of depression, anxiety, and even cognitive decline. And it's not only about what they say about you, it's about the energy they bring. Gossip thrives on negativity. It fuels suspicion, pits neighbor against neighbor, and robs a community of its sense of unity. It's a poison that seeps quietly into the air you breathe. So how do you handle it? The first step is recognizing it. Watch how they talk about others. If every conversation includes whispers about someone else's business, you can be sure that yours will be next when you're not around. Listen for the patterns. Do they exaggerate? Do they hint at things they can't say to make themselves seem important? The next step is setting boundaries without hostility. You don't need to play their game. Keep your personal matters private, and when the conversation veers into gossip about others, steer it back or disengage completely. Sometimes, silence speaks louder than any lecture. When they see you won't feed the fire, they'll eventually stop lighting matches in your presence. And remember this, your peace is more valuable than their curiosity. You do not owe anyone the details of your life, especially if those details might be used carelessly. In old age, trust becomes a precious commodity, and you have every right to protect it fiercely. A good neighbor will guard your privacy as if it were their own. They will speak well of you in your absence, not just your presence. They will be the kind of person you can share a worry with, knowing it will be met with empathy, not spread like wildfire. But the gossip, they will rob you of that security. They will make you question your words, your friendships, and your place in your own community. And that's not a cost you should be willing to pay at this stage in life. So, hold your peace close. Surround yourself with people who build you up, not tear you down. And when it comes to the neighbor whose words can't be trusted, keep your distance for the sake of your heart and your happiness. Number 2, the boundary breaker who disrespects your space. Home should be your sanctuary, the one place where you can close the door, breathe deeply, and know you are in control of your surroundings. But that sense of safety can disappear when a neighbor refuses to respect your boundaries. The boundary breaker often doesn't think they're doing anything wrong. They might just drop by without calling first, stroll into your yard as if it's part of their own, or lean over your fence to comment on your comings and goings. At first, you may brush it off, telling yourself they're just being friendly. But over time, these small intrusions can grow into something heavier, something that feels like your personal life is under siege. In our younger years, we might have more patience for the occasional unannounced visit. But in older age, your time, your energy, and your sense of calm are too valuable to spend on constant interruption. When someone repeatedly ignores your personal space, they aren't just being thoughtless. They're chipping away at the peace you've worked hard to build. Boundary breakers come in many forms. There's the neighbor who takes shortcuts across your lawn despite polite hints not to. The one who borrows tools or household items and conveniently forgets to return them. The one who thinks your garage, porch, or even kitchen is fair game because you don't mind. Over time, their lack of respect for your space becomes a pattern, and patterns have consequences. It's more than inconvenience. It's the feeling of never fully relaxing because someone could appear at your door, or worse, on your property at any moment. You may find yourself avoiding certain rooms because they face the street, or keeping curtains drawn to avoid unwanted attention. This isn't how your golden years should feel. The emotional toll is real. Seniors especially value predictability and safety, and constant intrusions can lead to frustration, stress, and even feelings of vulnerability. That vulnerability is dangerous. It can make you less trusting, less willing to engage with the people around you, and more inclined to retreat into isolation. Setting boundaries with a neighbor like this can feel uncomfortable at first. You may worry about offending them or causing tension. But remember, you have the right to protect your space. It's not selfish, it's healthy. Start with gentle but clear communication. A simple "I really need you to call before stopping by," or "I prefer people not to cross through my yard," is a reasonable request. If they persist, don't be afraid to be firmer. Boundaries only work if you enforce them. Consistency is key. You can't draw a line one day and let it slide the next. The more you stand by your limits, the more they'll realize you mean what you say. In some cases, the boundary breaker may not even realize the impact of their behavior until you point it out. But if they do understand and continue to disregard your wishes, it's a sign of deeper disrespect, and that's when you know this is not the kind of neighbor you want to be close to. Your home is more than four walls. It's where you should feel at ease, where every corner holds your memories, your comfort, and your freedom to live how you choose. Anyone who can't respect that doesn't deserve unfettered access to your life. In your later years, your personal space isn't just about property lines. It's about protecting your emotional well-being. And a neighbor who won't honor that is not someone you can afford to keep too close. If you let them, boundary breakers will take more than a patch of your lawn or a moment of your time. They'll take pieces of your peace, and you've spent too long earning that peace to hand it over freely. Number 3, the constant complainer, who drains your joy. Some neighbors bring light to your day with a wave, a kind word, or a shared laugh across the fence. Others seem to carry a dark cloud wherever they go, and they make sure to let that cloud drift right into your yard. The constant complainer is the neighbor who can't see the good in anything. If it's sunny, it's too hot. If it rains, it's too wet. If the street is quiet, it's boring. If it's busy, it's too noisy. Every conversation feels like a list of grievances about the weather, about the city, about other neighbors, about their own life. And if you're not careful, that negativity will seep into your own heart. In our later years, joy isn't just a luxury, it's essential. Studies have shown that a positive outlook can improve longevity, reduce stress, and even strengthen the immune system. But when you live near someone whose main language is complaint, it can quietly chip away at your own sense of gratitude. At first, you might listen out of politeness, nodding along while they vent. You might even sympathize with some of their points. But over time, you start to notice that you leave every interaction feeling heavier than when you began. Their words linger, pulling your mind toward what's wrong instead of what's right. It's not just about conversation, it's about atmosphere. If you see them in the driveway, you might hesitate to go outside because you know a 5-minute chat will turn into a 30-minute monologue about everything that's wrong with the world. And when this happens often enough, it starts to shrink your world, making you avoid moments that could have been pleasant just to dodge the drain on your spirit. The constant complainer often believes they're simply being real or telling it like it is. But there's a difference between honesty and habitual negativity. Honesty acknowledges problems but also seeks solutions. Negativity just recycles the same grievances without ever moving toward hope. Protecting yourself from this kind of neighbor doesn't mean you have to be unkind. It means you have to be intentional. Limit how much time you spend engaging in those complaint-filled conversations. Redirect the topic when you can, steering it towards something uplifting. If they insist on dragging the mood down, politely excuse yourself and move on. Sometimes a complainer will try to pull you into their worldview, almost as if your agreement validates their misery. Resist that pull. You don't have to argue, but you don't have to agree either. A simple "I like to focus on the good" can set the tone without causing offense. In older age, your emotional energy is precious. Every moment spent in unnecessary negativity is a moment you can't get back. You deserve neighbors who fill your life with warmth, not those who dim the light. Imagine instead a neighbor who shares a smile when you pass by, who talks about the roses blooming in spring, or the smell of fresh bread from the bakery down the road. Those are the interactions that lift you up, that remind you life still has beauty worth noticing. The constant complainer, on the other hand, will try to turn every rose into a thorn. And if you let them, their way of seeing the world will become yours. Guard your joy like you guard your home, because in the end, joy is one of the greatest treasures you can carry into your later years, and it's far too valuable to let someone else drain away. Number 4, the manipulator who only comes around when they need something. There's a certain kind of neighbor who seems warm, friendly, and attentive, until you realize their kindness is always tied to a request. They show up with a smile, but that smile is often followed by the way, could you? At first, you might not notice the pattern. You might even be happy to help. After all, neighbors should look out for each other. Maybe you water their plants when they're away, watch their dog, or lend them a few household items. But over time, you begin to feel a subtle shift. You realize they rarely stop by just to check in or share a pleasant conversation. Almost every interaction has an angle, a hook, or an unspoken expectation. Manipulative neighbors are often skilled at making you feel guilty for saying no. They might sigh, drop hints about how nobody else can help, or remind you of that one time they did you a small favor years ago, as if you now owe them a lifetime of returns. This is not generosity, this is emotional leverage. The danger with this type of relationship is that it slowly wears down your boundaries. You might start agreeing to things you don't want to do, simply because it feels easier than refusing. But in the process, you sacrifice your time, energy, and even your sense of dignity. As we grow older, our capacity for extra stress narrows. We need our energy for the things that truly matter: our health, our passions, our family. A manipulative neighbor, however, will keep drawing from your well without any concern for whether it's running dry. And when you finally do set limits, they may suddenly withdraw or act cold, using emotional distance as a form of punishment. The key to handling a manipulator is clarity. You need to recognize the pattern for what it is: a relationship built on taking, not giving. That doesn't mean you should never help anyone. Kindness is a beautiful part of community life, but healthy kindness is mutual. It's given freely, not extracted through guilt or pressure. When you say yes to a request, ask yourself, am I doing this out of genuine willingness or because I feel cornered? Does this neighbor also show up for me when I'm in need? If the answer is consistently no, then it's time to protect yourself. Set firm boundaries and stick to them. You can be polite while still saying, I'm not able to help with that right now. You don't owe an explanation, and you don't have to match their emotional manipulation with your own. Silence and consistency are far more powerful tools. In your later years, you deserve relationships that are nourishing, not draining. You deserve neighbors who come to your door with a plate of cookies just because they thought of you, not because they're buttering you up for a favor. A manipulative neighbor may try to make you feel selfish for putting yourself first, but here's the truth. Protecting your time and your peace isn't selfish, it's wise. You've spent a lifetime learning what matters most, and you've earned the right to spend your energy where it counts. When you close your door at night, you should feel gratitude for the people around you, not anxiety about what they'll ask of you next. The manipulator's friendship is conditional, and conditions will always keep you on edge. Free yourself from that trap. Save your yes for the people and moments that truly deserve it. And remember, real neighbors are there for each other without keeping score. Number 5. The troublemaker who brings drama and conflict. Some people seem to thrive on chaos. They are the ones whose lives are never quiet, never calm, and somehow, their storms always spill over into the lives of those around them. In a neighborhood, this is the person who stirs up arguments, creates tension between others, and seems to be at the center of every dispute. The troublemaker's methods vary. They might openly pick fights with other neighbors, shouting across the street, calling the police over small issues, or writing nasty notes and posting them on doors. Or they might operate more subtly, planting seeds of mistrust, encouraging divisions, and ensuring that peace never lasts for long. In old age, the last thing you need is to live next to a constant source of stress. The human body and mind aren't built to endure endless tension without consequence. Chronic stress raises blood pressure, weakens the immune system, and can even contribute to heart problems. And beyond the physical effects, it erodes your joy. You start to dread stepping outside, unsure of what conflict might flare up today. I've known seniors who once loved their gardens, but stopped tending them because a neighbor would turn every afternoon of pruning roses into a shouting match over where the property line fell. Others have given up neighborhood events because one troublemaker's presence guaranteed there would be drama before the day was done. Troublemakers often mask their behavior by claiming they're just standing up for themselves or not afraid to speak the truth. But there's a vast difference between standing your ground when necessary and picking battles for sport. A healthy neighbor seeks resolution. A troublemaker seeks victory, and often at someone else's expense. The damage they cause is not just between you and them. It's the atmosphere they create. A single troublemaker can divide an entire block, leaving people suspicious, guarded, and unwilling to connect. The very essence of community, mutual trust, and cooperation begins to crumble. To protect yourself, you must learn when to engage and when to walk away. Not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every provocation requires a response. Troublemakers often feed on reactions. Your frustration is their fuel. The less you give them to work with, the less power they have over your peace. It may also be wise to document interactions. If you suspect they may escalate issues to authorities or involve others in their disputes. Staying calm, respectful, and consistent will often speak louder than their noise. Over time, people see patterns, and the troublemaker's pattern will reveal itself. In your later years, you need to guard your mental and emotional space as carefully as you lock your doors at night. You don't need to be drawn into every neighborhood squabble or made to feel as if your home is part of someone else's battleground. A peaceful neighborhood is like a garden. It flourishes when people work together to nurture it. A troublemaker is the weed that spreads, choking out the flowers if left unchecked. And while you may not be able to remove them entirely, you can choose not to let their roots entangle your life. You've come too far, lived through too much, to let someone else's chaos steal your calm. In this season of life, protect your heart, protect your home, and keep your focus on the things and the people that bring you peace. Conclusion: guarding your peace in the golden years. There's a certain sweetness in the later chapters of life, a rhythm that moves slower, a joy found in simple routines, a peace that comes from knowing what truly matters. But that peace is fragile, and the people who live closest to you have the power to protect it or destroy it. The gossip will try to plant seeds of mistrust. The boundary breaker will test the edges of your comfort. The constant complainer will cast shadows over your brightest days. The manipulator will chip away at your time and energy. And the troublemaker will turn your safe haven into a battleground. None of these people are worth sacrificing your well-being for. Your golden years are not the time for unnecessary battles, endless stress, or constant vigilance over who might try to cross your lines. They are the time for protecting your health, your joy, and your spirit. Choosing to keep distance from toxic neighbors doesn't make you unkind. It makes you wise. You've walked through enough in life to know that peace is a treasure, and treasures must be guarded. Surround yourself with people who lift you up, who respect your space, and who add warmth to your days rather than weight to your shoulders. Because at the end of the day, home is more than just a roof and four walls. Home is where your heart feels safe. And in this season of life, you deserve nothing less.